Last time I got onto this train, I was barely alive, was badly injured, but we made it out the other side, and today's the day that we're going back.
Wow, Fox News' Benjamin Hall, as you know, returning to Ukraine for the first time since he was nearly killed while covering the war when it first began. Benjamin also received the Order of Merit from Ukrainian President Zelensky. There he is getting it, who sat down with him for a wide-ranging interview to be seen on Special Report tonight. But Benjamin Hall joins us now. Ben, your thoughts as you head back to the war zone that almost took your life?
Well, I can say, Brian, it's been a really emotional weekend for me. And I think this trip had two sole purposes. One of them was really just to show everyone that no matter if you get knocked down, you pick yourself up and you keep going. And I wanted to go back to Ukraine since the attack happened, and that's what this weekend was about. But aside from that, and aside from remembering Pierre and Sasha who died, the news angle was fascinating as well. And we got to speak to President Zelensky for an hour and a half, and he laid it out in full. He didn't hold back at all. He talked about the US, the lack of funding from Congress, about the lack of potential support from Americans. He talked about how Israel had really taken the eyes of the world away from Ukraine. And he thinks that this is a critical moment. He said that Russia may have pushed the world to the brink of World War III. And if Ukraine isn't supported enough, there's a real concern that could go on. So it was a really great experience for me. And I think it just reminds everyone that journalism must never stop. We must keep going back, no matter how difficult it might be.
And it's important for people to know who the good guys are. It's the Ukrainians. And it's important to know who invaded who. Are you amazed, Ben, from your perch coming back and forth the U.S. and U.K., how people seem to have lost the theme here?
Yes, and I think President Zelensky was also concerned about that. And, he said that the war is at full throttle right now. And we met with the Minister of Defense and the Minister of Intelligence, and we spoke to a lot of them just about the full scale of the war. And it really is a a war that is going on every single second. And the families that are being destroyed, and how Russia is already showing plans to move forward, move into the Balkans, move into Moldova. So, yes, they want people to remember that this war continues and that what you see in Israel is absolutely terrible, that it's terrorism, but then you see similar terrorism going on inside Ukraine. And again, it was a call, I think, for many people to be reminded of exactly what's going on in that country.
Tonight is going to be the full interview, or a lot of the interview with Brett. Here's a clip that you're going to let us see. And to set it up, you share a message to the people that lost their lives, our colleagues that lost their lives in Ukraine. Here's the exchange.
Two of my team were killed when I was injured, Pierre, our cameraman, and Sasha. And I know their families obviously would think about that an awful lot. I wonder if you had a message for them.
I wanted to say my condolences to all the parents, relatives of those very brave guys, men and women who lost their lives because they really wanted to help Ukraine. History of Ukraine will never forget such brave people.
Look very sincere.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we remembered Pierre the entire way, and Sasha as well. And he understands the risk that journalists are taking. And, many of our colleagues have been out there covering this conflict, and that's something that we have to continue doing. But he did say that Pierre and Sasha would be heroes in Ukraine for life, and that he totally respected what we all do. And, he was very grateful. But very, very personal to talk about Pierre and Sasha. Remember them, to remember that journey in as well. When I left Ukraine, it was on the same train that we took in this time. And back then, I was barely alive. I was so badly injured, and I just held it together. And as I went in this time, it felt like I was coming full circle again. And I felt that I was finishing off that whole story, and I was going back into where it happened. And so for Pierre, for Sasha, for all the Ukrainians who have been injured as well, I think we've got to keep remembering that the war continues, and it's our job as journalists. And I know Pierre and Sasha would feel the same way. It's our job to keep telling the news, keep telling the stories of what's happening there.
Secretary of Defense followed, unrelated to you, with $100 million that was already allocated, but delivered there. That was an important moment, too, I imagine, for the Ukrainians to see him.
Yes, and look, they're not... President Zelensky was not concerned that funding would immediately stop. And he knows that there are some hold-ups in Congress at the moment, but that there are deals trying to be worked out, whether it's connected to the border or elsewhere. So he doesn't think that is going to change. But he is looking closely at the upcoming election. And he did also say that he is aware that the shifting opinion could change. And I mentioned President Trump's suggestion that he could solve the war in Ukraine very quickly, and he had an idea. And President Zelensky said, if you will bring President Trump to me, I will sit down and live on air. We will talk about this face to face. We will hear what his peace plan is. Because he also said to me, there is no peace plan right now that is possible. Whatever we give away, whether it's Donbass or Crimea, we know Russia wants more. And it feels like that is just given over to Russia, well, they've fought so hard to keep. So no peace plan in mind for him whatsoever. And he will talk on air with anyone who thinks that that is a possibility.
And last thing, Benjamin, he's been at war for 2 years almost completely. He's been in those bunkers, wearing those fatigues. Did he look worn out to you?
You know what? He was remarkably full of energy. But what was quite shocking is the presidential palace. I mean, it is... every single corridor has sandbags in it in case people come in. Every window is blocked off. When we went to see him, we didn't have to just give up our phones. We had to take off our watches and give over our pens as well. They are absolutely concerned about his safety. And he talked about seeing his family. He said he doesn't get to see them often enough. He says when he sees his children, sometimes they cry. And it is his job as a father to try and give them strength in the same way he's trying to give the country strength. And so the interview, much of which you'll hear tonight, covers all those topics. It covers himself, his own past, how laughter is a way out of this, and it covers, how terrible things are on the ground. And he's very honest in saying that the counter-offensive was not as successful as they hoped, and that they really are going to have to try and find another way of getting through. So, yeah, very honest interview, and a very proud weekend for me and for Fox, I think.